Hello, friends, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Kirby Russia, where I live in holy light, and my guest is in the darkness of Serbia, which may be in dark times. Working Brother is here with us today. It's nice to finally have you on the program after knowing you for like 2 years or something.
Well, on and off, yeah, you could say. I haven't existed as the Working Brother for 2 years, but since before I was the Working Brother, I had been in contact with you. Yeah, that is true.
Okay. It's almost like
thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on.
It's kind of like when you get your superpowers, like the Joker or someone like that. But anyways, I shouldn't joke because our topic today might be deadly serious and maybe even depressing because you are an ethnic Serb, you are living in Serbia, and one thing I can tell you is that Russia is so obviously concerned as a society with the war in Ukraine, I guess not surprising, that we've kind of lost track of Serbia for the most part. And it seems like there's all sorts of weird stuff going down. Like I'm seeing people sharing videos of like kind of police-ish, soldier-ish guys in Albania, maybe taking people out. Vucic is under threat. I'm hearing the words color revolution. So here, dude, I'm going to shut my big fat mouth and tell me what is happening right now. But don't worry, I have an astute audience. You don't have to go back to like, well, in the 1990s, Bill Clinton bombed the shit. No, don't worry about that. We all know that. I mean, what's happening right now? What's going on?
Well, you touched upon some of the main topics. Yes, for the last, well, first, let's go back about a month and a half ago, maybe even 2 months now. There was an unprecedented school shooting, which is like something that's never happened in Serbia. And it was a kid who went around and killed, I believe, 13, 14, maybe 17 people. And then within the next 12 to 14 hours, there was another mass shooting. Another person, much older. This was, by the way, the first kid, the school kid, was below 13, which means he can't be prosecuted. And which was really bizarre for Serbia. And then after that, there was another shooting, which was basically like a rampage. Somebody took a gun and went around and shot a bunch of innocent people. So there was this like looming tragedy that had just happened, and that, along with all the other things that happen worldwide, including prices rising and electricity being more expensive and so on, has brought around this like revolutionary and you might call it color revolutionary spirit in Serbia. So at first, people got out because they got out into the streets to protest because they we're not satisfied with the societal direction that Serbia is going in, with the reality TV programs and all this debauchery and kind of erosion of moral values, let's say, in the public sphere. And that was, you can say...
Hold on, got it. This is important. So there was some sort of like almost protest movements that are sort of more conservative, more sort of pro-family, less degeneracy. Yes. That's who's on the street.
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's who originally went out onto the street, and it wasn't even a protest at first. At first, it was like a walk of silence in respect and like mourning of the victims, But very soon, it became or it got co-opted, you can say, now openly, because it's 3, 4, 5 weeks later, or maybe even 7 weeks later, it's become too obvious that there are too many elements who have claimed to be the leaders of this protest, who are tied with, embassies and other protest movements that have been outed as color revolutions from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance, and at first, the first 2 weeks, it was generally about that. And then things started flaring up in Kosovo. And by flaring up, I mean, attacks on Serbian civilians, arrests of civilians, imposing of mayors that were, elected with 2 or 3% vote, and so on and so forth. And as that was cooking up in the south of Serbia, because as you may know, Kosovo is Serbia.
So I've heard.
Yeah, no, it is.
Especially from soccer fans. But yes.
No, it's definitely a part of Serbia if you go by UN Resolution 1244, which is the bottom line. And that's all there is to it. And the Serbian Constitution, which also says that it's an integral part of the Serbian state. So, as your astute listeners and followers may know, it was taken from Serbia in the 90s. And because it was taken, it was the puppet regime was put in there. And I'm sure people know about the history of the conflict there and how it devolved into this quasi-state, which is basically a project that not only trains terrorists, like literally, that are sent to Syria and wherever, but also uses terrorist tactics against the Serbian population. And when I say that, I don't say it lightly. Yesterday or the day before, there was... let me play some videos for you. Let me see if I can do that here. There was... yeah, there we go. These are protests in Kosovo. And there's... that was a really short video. 2 days ago, there was a woman whose children were beaten up. Teenage boys under the age of 14. They were riding a quad, and the cop, Albanian, as in ethnic Albanian, but in reality Kosovar. Because what you need to understand is that Kosovo has an ethnic population that's minority Serb now, but before the whole conflict 20 years ago, there was a much higher percentage of Serbs. And this latest escalation is basically them trying to kick out all the Serbs by any means necessary, including banning most recently food trucks and other trade with central Serbia at the border. Then on top of that, there's let me show you, let me find here a video. This is one of the people that was recently arrested is actually a champion of kickboxing, I believe it is. And this is the Kosovo Kickboxing Club doing an open air training in support of their coach who was arrested. On charges of organizing the beating up of the NATO security forces and the Kosovo police. I'm sure it came across your Telegram feed that some NATO forces in full combat gear were beaten by barehanded Serbs.
Yeah, well, that's in some ways almost not surprising. If we've looked at I've heard both sides about this most recent counteroffensive, that the reason that the Ukrainians either succeeded or lost is because they did or didn't follow NATO doctrines. I lean towards, I think they may have followed the NATO doctrines, and that's what basically got them killed, because they're written by people who don't know what they're doing, who aren't really involved in this, and it's all very abstract and distant. So that's not too surprising.
Today, because among the other things that have been closed down in the Serbian enclaves in Kosovo, because they're basically enclaves, are hospitals and other government institutions, because basically it's they've taken over the legitimacy of the actual Serbian people who were there, and they installed their own governors or basically leaders or whatever you want to call them. So the point is that the mines, the other municipality buildings and stuff that's owned, quote unquote, by the government has been taken over by these fake institutions, and I call them fake because within the state of Serbia they are not recognized as they are temporary institutions. And they're not actual government, because this goes way back, to the 90s, and when Serbia capitulated basically, or allowed NATO onto its land.
Yeah.
It was with the understanding that this was going to be a temporary solution to like solve it. And now, 20 something odd years later, 25 almost, it's still the temporary government that's in place and is, financed and supported by the West. But the most interesting thing that people should know about this most recent escalation, other than the fact that, children can't go to school and are supervised by NATO troops when they go in to get their diplomas. This is like not hyperbole or exaggeration.
No, dude, trust me, man. You're a picture of the crowd. I know exactly how this thing is. Yeah.
So the point is that these incidents have been heating up and they keep happening. And here's some more B-roll. And they keep happening, and they're provoking and they're escalating in ways that they haven't in a very, very long time. And what this has prompted the West to do is very interesting, because never before have we seen the West pull away from Kosovo and the quote-unquote Pristina authorities in a way that they have in the recent, let's say, week and a half, 2 weeks. Because this creature, Albin Kurti, who is the leader, let's say, of the government there, is basically going all out. Like President Vučić called him the Zelensky. He wants to be the future Zelensky. He wants to start another.
Well, the dude. Here's the problem: is with the geopolitics of things. One of the reasons Serbia has the problems it does is because it's so far away from big working brother that is Russia. I mean, do you think that that this might actually turn into a war? And if it does, it's going to be, again, all of NATO against you guys for the most part.
Could it turn into a war, man? What kind of question is that? That's like asking you if you think the special military operation would start 2 weeks before it started. I can't answer you that.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
All I can tell you is NATO in Europe has had their vacations canceled because of the situation in Kosovo. So if that doesn't get the hairs on your neck tingling, I don't know what will.
Well, I can tell you one thing, man. I guessed wrong. I actually, until the war
That's
started,
what I'm saying.
I didn't think that they had the guts to do it. Because Russia was always, for all these years, just constantly bending over backwards, placating. Okay, let's renegotiate. And then all of a sudden, one day, they just stopped.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Dude, I don't know. I'm just saying that, like, because, let me put this way. So that was a bad question. Do you think that there is what do you think is more likely to happen? This escalating to some sort of military conflict, or just everything continuing along the same vector that's been going on for the last 20 years? What's more likely to happen?
Listen, there's wishful thinking, then there's geopolitics, and then there's factors that you can't, account for. You know what I mean? Like most recently, I woke up and the news was 3 Albanian, as in Kosovar, ethnically Albanian police, quote-unquote police, from Kosovo security forces, which is, I think, what they're actually called, arrested 1.5 kilometers within Serbian soil. You know what I mean? Now, was this NATO probing, like they like to do?
Yeah.
Was this a rogue element within the government of Kosovo? Was this a provocation of some other NATO power that's also got some kind of influence in Kosovo? There's so many different players that are taking advantage of the situation that it's hard to like we can hope that there will be no conflict. We can hope that there will be peace and there will be a diplomatic solution. But the way things have been going, especially in the last week or so, looking less and less likely, because if you've got a bull charging at you, you know what I mean, or like a donkey in this case that's stubborn and doesn't want to back down, there's not much you can do.
Well, here's something then. You know how it's becoming more and more famous how throughout Europe At the very least, Viktor Orban always stands up and says, no Russia sanctions, let's get this war over with. Have any prominent European figures taken Serbia's side in these sort of recent stressful moment, or is it universally quiet?
Well, it's interesting that you should mention Viktor Orban, because as a matter of fact, he's in Belgrade today, which, you know, is refreshing. And recently he attended some military exercises and like a open day military parade thing that happened in Serbia, Expo, I guess is what you would call it. And he was the guest of honor dignitary. So, and Serbia is also opening up a pipeline with Hungary. So there's definitely some kind of, you know, cooperation there. There's even the West has been reluctant to like back the so-called Kosovo narrative. You know what I mean? Because he's pushed it too far. So I get the feeling that there's something bigger cooking, but whether it's going to turn into something kinetic, we can only hope that it doesn't and pray. Because God knows this region has had more than enough of its fair share of that kind of stuff.
So is Ukraine, and that didn't stop them.
Yeah.
But
Ukraine maybe, you know, in its more distant history, yes, but Serbia within the last
in recent
30 within the last 30 years, I think we take the cake for
well. It also goes back to one of those
European
things
violence.
where when Ukraine is pretty much entirely part of Russia, tends to live a lot more safely. But anyways, so one thing that we have to ask then as a Serbian, is Vučić actually popular? Like, is Vučić on this level of like an Orban or Putin, where if they were to make an appeal to the people to do something, they would do it? Or is he just some guy in a suit? Or is he secretly Albanian? Or is he secretly Jewish, as I've heard? Both. Or
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that he's
Jewish.
I haven't heard that he's Jewish. Before we get into that, let's go back to the. Excuse me. Before we get into that, let's go back to the protests, because this ties into the other. So the protests started off as like anti-violence, stop reality TV. We don't want violence in public media. Let's mourn the victims. Let's find out what happened. Who's to blame? Let's have the police chief resign, or the people in charge of media resign, and so on. And that devolved into, we have to get rid of Vučić, and that was the only demand. You know, there's no like
classic color revolution. Wow.
Yeah.
Old school.
And this is playing along in the background of Serbs being, you know, beaten by Kosovo police, and in Kosovo, where the Serbian army and Serbian security forces are not allowed to go in by 1244 resolution, and KFOR is supposed to protect both sides, and you have KFOR, you have these Kosovo police helping install a mayor into the municipality building, and this security force, Kosovo, is protected by KFOR from civilians that are protesting peacefully, mind you, and then you get stun grenades and whatnot used, and the fight breaks out. And they also used sound cannons, which are banned in the U.S., by the way. Yeah. And then the next days, you've got Serbs getting arrested in the middle of the night, as well as in the middle of the morning, like today. There was a kid today who got arrested who was going to work, being accused of all kinds of shit, including, like, you know, organizing terrorist organizations and whatever. Which is, you know, retarded, to like say the least. And these protests in Belgrade are against violence, but nowhere mention Kosovo. You know? So much so that there's like EU flags at these protests, and people went, and like while people are giving speeches at the main stage during these protests right in front of the parliament,
Yeah.
there's people who are, alternate media, who are streaming and asking the speakers, why are you not mentioning violence against Serbs in Kosovo? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What kind of protest against violence is this if there's violence against Serbs in Kosovo,
Well, it's
and
a
you're not
protest
mentioning
against
it?
the bad violence.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Man,
so like I said,
this is so text. But the thing is, my brother, I'm hoping that this is so textbook that it's actually easily defeated, because it seems like the success rate of the color revolutions kind of has been going down and down and down ever since the Russians discovered or got lucky in 2010.
yeah. I just actually did a recording. It'll already be live by the time this is up. With Joaquin Flores, who you may know as the florist of Telegram, how I like to refer to him.
That's a new one.
And we actually did a deep dive on color revolutions. So look out for that. It's actually a 2-episode thing. Check out my channel on YouTube. It should still be there. Might get deleted. You never know. But yeah. So what I wanted to get at is your question of, do the Serbian people like Vučić?
Yeah.
Let me put it to you this way. Many of the things that you said might also be true, but he's also, over the years, used people like Tony Blair and like the Soros' son and so on and so forth as like people to consult with.
Oh.
There's a lot of weird privatizations that have been happening. So generally speaking, the people of Serbia don't necessarily like Vučić.
Uh-oh.
Like the polls would say different. There's a lot of bots and there's a lot of, hardcore party members who all reap the benefits of knowing who they know. But the point is, like, at some of the core issues that are core to Serbians, he's disappointed. But you have to look at that in the whole color revolution view and the whole NATO bombing view and the whole sovereignty view, where how sovereign is Serbia? Keeping in mind that we've got the second biggest American base, bond steel, in Kosovo, second only to the one in Germany.
Well, yeah, it sort of begs the question, to what extent could any Serbian president not play ball with people like the Soroses and the West when they essentially have a gun constantly to their back?
Yeah, and it's not only to the back of the president, it's to the back of the people as well. Because through, the influx of jihadi migrants, to say the least, and all kinds of other sparks that they can start anytime, it's the whole Serbian nation that's been held hostage, basically, as I'm not defending Vučić in any, terminology, because some Serbs will probably hate me if I try and defend him, but I'm just saying that people, when they look at, this hasn't been my stance always, let's put it that way, but recently, among other things, thanks to XF, the X-Files radio on Telegram.
#1 comedy show on Telegram, according to him, yes.
Yeah, so you get a better understanding of politics and geopolitics and the wheel within a wheel within a wheel of what's actually going on. And I gotta hand it to Vučić. 2-3 days ago, his cabinet met with the Russian cabinet, and there were some generals and military and ambassadors that were meeting here as well. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, NATO generals are in our Ministry of Defense buildings. They have permanent offices there.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
I don't know if you used to watch spy movies and stuff, but There's Moscow rules and there's Belgrade rules, and this is definitely Belgrade rules. That's what I have to tell you about that.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's where we're gonna leave it here, because I actually have to get going pretty soon. But I just wanted to thank you very much for coming on the program and kind of clearing things up here, even though if it's a little bit dark. One thing I can tell you is that if by some grace of God and by some sort of shift in the Balkan Mountains or the Orthodox countries, if we were ever able to sort of create some sort of pan-Orthodox harmony, and Serbia could have some sort of official or unofficial border, kind of like, remember how the Warsaw Pact, like there were borders between those countries, but they didn't really count for very much.
My understanding,
okay. Yeah,
my understanding is that Russia is going to be in Odessa soon. And from what I understand in international law, if you're on the Danube, that means you can travel up and down the Danube and you're not allowed to be restricted.
Oh, and well, dude,
if Russia's going to be there, they're going to be neighbors, man.
Well, I don't know. They might try to use that law, but as we've noticed, Washington only obeys laws that it likes or thinks, or that applies to the Ubermenschen or whatever. To us Slavs here, we doesn't count. But that could be very interesting. That could be very interesting. And also, well, the next thing is, to be honest, although that's still very far from you, I'll put it this way: if there's a country that has very fragile politics, it's Moldova. And as soon as Russia establishes a border with Moldova, I think that Dodon could come back very easily from his. I don't know. Was he released from house arrest, or is he still under house arrest? Dodon, the former president of Moldova.
I don't know. I'm not up to Moldovan politics.
I can't remember. But anyways, he was another good example. Hey, at least they didn't shoot him, so that's nice. But anyways, I do think that Moldovan politics are going to change real quick as soon as they have a border with Russia, because that'll cause panic in the halls of power, I think, first off. And then secondly, Maya Sandu really only is the leader because of, like, again, this sort of like polling manipulation and all. No one really cares. Like, there aren't really Moldovan nationalists. They're just Moldovans that would kind of like someone to pay them salaries that are livable. If we're
to like believe Medvedev and his maps that he puts out from time to time.
Yeah.
And if we're to go by the most recent prisoner exchange between Hungary and Russia of Ukrainians from Hungarian areas of Ukraine, it is highly likely that in the next, let's say, 3 to 4 years, Transnistria, Moldova, and all of that will be recut up to new Romania, new Russia, and so on and so forth.
Oh, yeah, that also is very possible. That also is very, very possible, but we'll see about that. But to be honest, that could be good, because I think that for peace, like I was trying to get at, but for the sake of peace in a lot of these countries, there needs to be some sort of connection between like all these countries, like especially Hungary and Russia, and then by extent Serbia. In fact, because my brain isn't working, let me just take a little, let's see, map of Europe, because I can't remember where these fantastic Eastern European borders all lie. So I'm looking at things. Wow, you know what? Oh my gosh! If Russia were to actually give enough of Ukraine away to make a connection to Hungary, then Russia would have the connection to you guys, not just the Danube. Well, that's something to hope and pray for. If you're Serbian, that is that could be a big answer to your #1 question that you guys.
Hey, I just want to interject there, because you say if you're Serbian, you wait for Russia, and everything will be good. But like, there is, let's say, huge silent majority that are like that, but there's a very, very vocal percentage, which maybe even like 20-30% at times, depending on the political winds at the moment, that are anti-Russian. You know what I mean? Within Serbia,
well, they're like. Course. You guys have your liberals and all that, and they have to despise Russia.
No, but it's not about liberals. It's just that some people, because they lived through the 90s and Yeltsin's Russia supporting us, they've become disillusioned, and they still believe that Russia is that Russia and that Russia doesn't care, and they don't listen to Zakharova on a regular basis call out.
Gotcha. But well, one thing I said is I don't want to. The way you kind of framed my argument there, I want to clarify that was just that not that the only thing Serbia can do is wait for Russia, because that's a terrible strategy. I was saying that would be a very large blessing if it were to occur. I think you guys have to pursue your goals as if Russia doesn't exist for the most part, man. Because that's I generally don't. Although sometimes in life there is an argument to maybe just sort of do nothing and wait. Sometimes in life that is a solution, but very often when it comes to politics, the more active approach is better, and not hoping for some political dominoes to line up. Because I'll tell you one thing about like feeling betrayed. Putin is not the ideologue that people claim he is. In fact, I think his leadership is really the argument of pragmatism over ideology. So, to be honest, if you look at it, if again, this meeting with these African delegates that we were talking about earlier when you interviewed me. So what if that somehow, by some stroke of fate, Zelensky agreed to that agreement? Well, then Russia would have sort of, I guess, gotten two new regions, the Donbass, and the rest would have gone back to Ukraine. Whatever was going to happen, those people was going to happen to them. No Odessa, no Kharkov, no Zaporozhye, no Khersonskaya Oblast, none of that stuff. So, in some ways, Putin was willing to, at least theoretically, sign off on giving up on this greater mission of Russian civilization to just not have a war and keep the economy going.
But I think that wasn't. I don't think that was like a final plan. I think that was just like, let's pause the counteroffensive type of thing that the Ukrainians are doing now on the ground. Like to make a joke parallel with that. But he wanted to pause the conflict there, call peace, and then probably maybe in the future come to collect on Odessa, because I don't think Odessa has been out of the Russian psyche or the Russian leadership psyche since that incident.
Oh, the massacre on the 2nd of May. It certainly hasn't. And to be honest, I think one thing that's happening internally within Russia is that, which is also unfortunate for maybe some of you guys listening, I do think that people in power in Russia assume that the West is going to collapse, and also because in great Russian tradition, why work hard now when you wait for West to collapse? Then you just pick up all pieces. I think that there's some sort of that reasoning that could be with the war, that eventually the United States, especially if it suffers really horribly economically from de-dollarization, it's not going to be able to hold on to all of Eastern Europe, and Russia can sort of reorganize things as it sees fit later. That's a very Russian way of thinking, of sort of like low effort, in fact, zero effort, high yield. Is very appealing, which is unfortunate. There are certain things about Russia that are infinitely frustrating. Just how there's this sort of conspiracy theory that actually the Soviet Union really could have jumped on the energy crisis in the 1970s in America, but if they would have made the United States collapse, it would have made the world too hard to manage. This Cold War is managed. We have this side, we have that side, everything in balance. This is great. If America fall apart, we know what happened tomorrow. Who knows? That's a super Russian way of thinking of, we'll let my enemy survive because it's very balanced and stable this way. That's also this very when Russia becomes Asian. So I could see some of that being within the realm of possibility. So, but anyways, man,
I just want to,
sure.
I just want before you cut off,
words,
closing words, exactly. I just want to draw attention to the fact that, with these color revolutions and what's going on everywhere in the world, it's not as clear as it appears in HD. So there's a lot of nuance. And I want to draw attention to the fact that, Serbia has started 2 world wars before, so let's hope that we don't have a third go at it,
because there won't be a fourth. All right, man. Great talking to you.
Thank you.
All the best. Tim Kirby Russia signing out. Everyone check out Working Brother. Unless I'm an idiot, the description to his channel, its link or address or whatever you want to call it, should be in the description of this video. Tim Kirby Russia signing out.